For more than 30 years, I have collected fine Bordeaux through booms, busts, and everything in between. One thing I have learned is this: the best buying opportunities rarely come when everyone is excited. They come when enthusiasm disappears. That's exactly what's happening today. After demand softened, interest rates rose, and Bordeaux released 2 consecutive vintages into a much weaker market. Prices have corrected dramatically. Some of my favorite estates are now selling for 40 to 45% less than they were only a few years ago. That has me asking one simple question: is this a moment to start buying Bordeaux again? 2 wines I have been watching closely are Château Malescot-Saint-Exupéry from Margaux and Château La Gaffelière from Saint-Émilion. Malescot, one of Margaux's most respected third rows, is now selling for around $40 on the latest vintages. La Gaffelière, one of Saint-Émilion's historic benchmark estates and formerly a Premier Grand Cru Classé B, before leaving the classification in 2022, is around $50 to $55. For wines of this pedigree, those prices are remarkable. I already own multiple vintages of both. Yet, for the first time in years, I'm seriously considering buying more. In this video, I will compare 2 bottles from my cellar, explain how differently they taste, which dishes they pair best with, and ultimately tell you which one I would recommend depending on the style of Bordeaux you enjoy. And before we begin, while you are still discovering your preferences, buy 3 or 6 bottles rather than a full case of 12. A cellar should evolve alongside your taste. First, a quick look at the appellations. Before we get into the wines, let's spend a minute on why these 2 regions produce such different styles. Talking about Malescot-Saint-Exupéry and La Gaffelière is really talking about Bordeaux's 2 personalities. On the left bank, the deep gravel soils favor Cabernet Sauvignon, producing wines with darker fruit, firmer tannins, and excellent aging potential. Margaux still relies on Cabernet Sauvignon, but generally includes considerably more Merlot than neighboring Pauillac, often around 40% rather than 20%, giving the wines greater superness and making them approachable a little earlier. Across the river, on the right bank, clay limestone favor Merlot and Cabernet Franc. The result is a completely different expression of Bordeaux. Richer textures, brighter red fruit, finer tannins, greater freshness. Saint-Émilion is celebrated for wines built around Merlot that combine generosity with remarkable longevity. Neither style is better. They are simply 2 very different interpretations of Bordeaux. Now, let's look at the wines. Château Malescot-Saint-Exupéry. The estate dates back to the 17th century and takes its name from 2 former owners, Simon Malescot, a royal councillor, and Count Jean-Baptiste de Saint-Exupéry, whose great-grandson, Antoine, would later write The Little Prince. Purchased by Paul Zuger and his son Roger in 1955, the chateau underwent a long period of restoration before returning to prominence from the 1990s onwards. Today, Jean-Luc Zuger oversees the 28-hectare family estate, widely regarded as one of Margaux's strongest performing third rows. The vineyard is planted to roughly 50% Cabernet Sauvignon, 35% Merlot, with Cabernet Franc and Petit Verdot completing the blend. A classic Margaux balance between structure and elegance. On the nose, I find dark berries, cassis, cedar, violets, baking spice, and a gentle hint of tobacco. The palate is rich, supple, and beautifully textured. Blackberry, blueberry, raspberry, and licorice are layered over dark chocolate, forest raw, and subtle earthy notes. Bright acidity and beautifully integrated tannins carry everything into a long, savory finish. Under Jean-Luc Zuger's direction, Malescot has become increasingly generous and opulent, especially in warmer vintages, without sacrificing Margaux's trademark perfume. The 2024 and 2025 vintages currently sell for around $40. By comparison, the highly regarded 2022 and 2020 vintages are closer to $70. Château La Gaffelière. The Malescot family has owned La Gaffelière since 1705, making it one of Saint-Émilion's oldest family-owned estates. Its unusual name comes from a medieval community of people affected by leprosy that once stood below the chateau. The estate became Premier Grand Cru Classé B in 1959 and spent decades building one of the region's strongest reputations. A major turning point came in 2004 when Stéphane de Renoncourt joined as consultant, helping guide the estate towards a more precise, elegant style. In 2022, La Gaffelière chose to withdraw from the Saint-Émilion classification alongside Ozone, Cheval Blanc, and Angelus. Recent vintages are typically built around 60% Merlot and 40% Cabernet Franc, one of the highest Cabernet Franc proportions among leading Saint-Émilion estates. That helps explain the wine's freshness and remarkable precision. On the nose, I find red and black fruits, graphite, crushed stone, wood spice, and subtle forest floor notes. The palate is silky, yet beautifully structured. Cassis, blackberry, raspberry, kirsch, and rye plum sit alongside truffle, sweet spice, and a pronounced mineral backbone. Everything feels remarkably pure, remarkably focused. Over the past 2 decades, La Gaffelière has moved away from heavier extraction towards a style centered on freshness, precision, and terroir expression. The 2024 and 2025 vintages are currently around $50 to $55. The 2020 and 2022 are closer to $90. The verdict: if you have watched my channel for a while, you will know I rarely tell people one wine is better than another. Wine collecting isn't about finding the best bottle. It's about finding the right bottle for the right occasion. That's exactly how I think about these 2 wines. Malescot-Saint-Exupéry and La Gaffelière have become permanent fixtures in my cellar. They have accompanied countless dinners with family and friends and have consistently delivered far more than their prices suggest. If these wines were still selling at $90 or $100, I would probably wait. But at today's prices, I am buying. Great buying opportunities don't come along very often in fine wine. When they do, I would rather act before everyone else notices. If your taste leans towards richer, darker, and more opulent Bordeaux, I would choose Malescot-Saint-Exupéry. Its higher Cabernet content and generous texture make it a superb partner for roast lamb, prime rib, rib-eye steak, venison, or grilled portobello mushrooms. If you prefer greater freshness, brighter fruit, and a more mineral expression, I would choose La Gaffelière. Its Merlot and Cabernet Franc blend pairs beautifully with roast duck, veal chops, beef tenderloin, mushroom risotto, truffle pasta, or aged comté. Personally, I don't choose between them. I buy both, because each represents a completely different side of Bordeaux. And at today's prices, I think both deserve a place in my cellar. If you had around $50 to spend today, which style would you choose? The sumptuous variety richness of Malescot or the pure mineral precision of La Gaffelière? I would love to hear your choice in the comment section below. You will find more on my cellar insights and tasting notes on Instagram. Massive thanks for watching today, and I will see you in the next one.